Hey dudes, it's Lerald. I have been running a bunch of Expedition logbooks recently, and they are an absolute money printer. But first, the news of the day, there is a PoE 2 patch coming later this week. It looks really great. It's going to offer some stuff that people have been asking for close to a decade, all of the breach splinters being vacuumed up into a single spot at the end of the breach. That looks pretty dope. On use, like currency buttons on the strong boxes and essences throughout the maps. That seems pretty great, and I feel I'd be willing to bet a less important internal organ on these both being things that are added in the next PoE 1 patch as well. Also, the NBA rigged the draft lottery once again. Alright, so I think in the worst case, we're talking about a 5 divine per hour strategy, doing Expedition logbooks even with some bad RNG. Now, this will require you to do them correctly. If you do them poorly, sure, you could make nothing or even lose money, but if you're doing them correctly, I think 5 divines per hour is kind of the floor. And that's with bad RNG. With good RNG, you're going to be in the double digits, I think, pretty easily. I know that's what I put in the thumbnail, like 5 to 10 divines per hour. I made quite a bit more than that, and it was a deliberate underestimate because I just don't want people to yell at me if they do it wrong or their RNG is bad, because it's still an ARPG. Sometimes your drops just kind of suck even if you do everything correctly. But logbooks are very good. They're also pretty easy for in-game content, even at max difficulty, level 4 difficulty logbooks. I haven't died in a single one of them, and I never really even felt like I got all that close. I have retired my row amount, and I have swapped over to using Blasphemy Temporal Chains based on some helpful comments on the Simulacrum video that recommended that, and I love it. It's an amazing setup. 10 out of 10. I do recommend it. But also, logbooks just aren't simulacrums, right? Both in terms of not being that difficult and being pretty rewarding. And I guess in a third way of being kind of quick, right? So they're easy, they're reasonably cheap at a price of around 7 logbooks per divine. And then, yeah, I mean, they're quick. You're in and out in 4 or 5 minutes at most. I think they're generally faster than a medium juice map, and certainly faster than a super juiced map. So all pretty good. I think 4 to 5 minutes is kind of the estimate on time I would give if you're taking your time along the way, stopping and reading, doing everything correctly, not just trying to bulldoze your way through and then getting mad when nothing drops because you didn't hit any of the right remnants along the way. So I ran a little targeted farm setup last night of 21 logbooks, or 3 divines worth of them. Again, there are 7 of them to a divine, so right, 3 divines, and my initial plan was to run 25 because that's what I had on hand, but then I thought, hey, let's just do 3 divines worth of them, see if I make any money back. The very first map, or logbook, whatever, I got 2 raw divines. So by the end of the, I think, 4th one, I had gotten my 3rd divine, so I was already in the money in the first 4 or 5 logbooks, and then it was just kind of printing money from there. Now, obviously, this isn't definitive, right? It's not a sample size of 100,000 logbooks, but it is enough to get a good general idea, and I'd already been playing with logbooks and having pretty good success prior to doing this one. This is just the first one where I said, I'm going to count it. I'm going to count it and count how long it takes. So I didn't put everything that I did into a spreadsheet because I just didn't feel like taking the time. I'd rather just kind of put it all together, math it all up, and write it down, and then make a video about it quickly. But I spent around 2 hours, including 5 to 10 minutes AFK to feed the cat and feed myself, and in that time I made roughly 16 divines worth of raw currency and item drops, so around 6 to 7 divines per hour of pure profit. Except that's not including the unique flask I got from Olroth, and that thing is worth exactly 10 divines pretty easily. So I actually made closer to 11 to 12 divines per hour, again in pure profit. That's even excluding the cost of the 21 logbooks that I ran. So in terms of the drops, I haven't found a farm strategy that throws out raw divine orbs like this nearly as liberally as Expedition logbooks do. I've tried a whole bunch of stuff, and it really is because of a super strong interaction with the buffs that were added to chests in patch 0.2 OG. Expedition chests had their quantity and rarity values, the bases on those, buffed to the rafters, and then remnant and quantity rarity bonuses from Expedition also got a huge buff on top of that. These stack with each other, and they stack extremely well. It might be multiplicative, it doesn't really matter. They stack well. I found 8 raw divines, and then, as you can see from my tab here, I have converted all of the expedition currency. I'll throw up some of the, I will have already in the edit thrown up some of the previous footage before I converted all of the expedition currency, but I had around 7 to 8 divines worth of like random currency, and then this very well rolled expedition tablet, and just some other stuff in here, you know, like a perfect jeweler's orb, level 20 uncut skill gem, and then obviously 8 raw divines. So this is about 15 to 16 divines worth of stuff, not including the 10 divine Olroth's resolve, which puts us up into the 25 to 26 divine range. And then I also found a couple of like rare items that seem pretty well rolled. Don't have D&D on, that's always a mistake when making a video, but I had a couple of like pretty well rolled rares that I've thrown into the tab here for 1 divine. Maybe they'll sell, maybe they won't, I didn't even count them. So one of the big appeals of Expedition Logbooks is that there's really not a lot of setup. You basically just grab a logbook and then you run it, right? You don't have to do anything with your Atlas passives other than put some points into the small passives to turn up the difficulty. You do want to do them ideally at least at level 3. You know, I ran 1 extra logbook after I had done my 21, and I did have kind of bad RNG on that one, just to check if the area level is still 82 on difficulty 3 and you're running like a level 80 logbook. And it does seem to be the case. So I think you could drop 2 points in the passive tree, just run like 3 of the small passives, and go with difficulty 3. If you're scared of dying at all, that'll give you an extra portal, but it will slightly reduce your chance of getting the flask from Olroth if he's in your logbook. I think that's not like 100% definitive. I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I'm pretty sure that being at level 4 increases your chances of getting the flask from him. I did kill him in the one where I did it on level 3, and I got like a garbage mace, and the time where I got the flask, I did kill him on level 4. No, you don't need to do them at difficulty 4. I've just been doing them all at that because I didn't think they were very hard. I may be jinxing myself for the example logbook I do here in a second, but I never felt like I needed to run them below difficulty level 4. So yeah, this is a setup, right? Just 4 small passive points in there, you know, for difficulty. That's it. Nothing else matters. And then really it is just a matter of like looking at the logbooks you have. And the most important thing to look for in the logbook is actually just the Lush Isle, this area right here, because this area has a specific bonus to it that really takes advantage of the big buff from patch 02 OG, where it just has several extra, they're totems. They're not underground areas, they're like side areas in the above ground, the main area. It can be anywhere from, I've gotten 0 before, but it's generally anywhere from 1 to 4 totems can show up, and they just have a massive amount of quantity and rarity, and they only drop currency. So these things kind of just crap out a ton of divines, and they only appear in the Lush Isle, as far as I've been able to tell. Done all of the other logbooks as well, or logbook areas, and Lush Isle is definitely more valuable. And that's really where most of the currency comes from. It comes from expedition chests, specifically the currency flagged expedition chests, the ones that look like a chaos orb, the totems in the Lush Isle logbooks, and then exotic coinage, which just comes generically from monsters and from artifact chests in your logbooks. So the rest of the expedition artifacts really aren't worth very much. Like I can go over to Alva up here and just kind of show off the exalted orb to expedition currency ratio. Like Black Scythe ones, the Tujin ones, these are okay. These are about half of an exalt, maybe less, but then like the ROG ones, order artifacts are less. Now, one thing that you want to pay attention to when you are trying to sell these is there's a pretty big discrepancy between the buy price and the sell price. So like if you just put them in at the listed, basically the asking price for selling artifacts, you're going to be like doing yourself a pretty big disservice. You kind of want to like, you know, figure out what the ratio is and kind of try and skew in your favor. Because like if I had 500 order artifacts and I sold them for 30 exalts, I would be cutting myself out of potentially 5 or 7 exalts that I could make by, you know, kind of feathering that number in there. You also don't have to sell things for like the cheapest amount that's available, right? You can not undercut, you know, that's also an option. All right, so the other thing to keep in mind when doing setup on your logbook is like, right, Lush Isle is the most important of the side areas or the expedition sites. But if that's not available, like this logbook doesn't have that, then what we want to compare after that is the available implicits. And what I'm really looking for is number of explosives, explosive placement range, and explosive radius. Those are really like the three things I'm mostly looking for. We have like number of explosives on this frigid bluff. I think that's better than the runic monster markers that we get on Barren Atoll. There is the combination of number of remnants and additional suffix modifier on remnants on Barren Atoll. That's kind of nice. Like, that's maybe okay, but I think the extra explosives and extra chest markers on frigid bluff seems better to me. Looking at this one as well, where I don't have the Lush Isle, but I have, monster markers, explosives, and remnants. That's pretty good. This one is explosives, explosive placement, range, and quantity of artifacts. So quantity of artifacts, not really valuable, but explosive placement, range, and number of explosives is great. And my options here are Rogwan, Order of the Chalice, where all the artifacts are very, very low value, and Druid of the Broken Circle, which is even lower value. These are like, whatever, 25 to 1 exalt, and these are like 10 to 1 exalt. Ultimately, that doesn't matter, right? They're so low value that it just doesn't matter. So I'm just going to go off of the best implicit available, or implicit modifiers available, and in this case, I think it would be Frigid Bluffs. And so just to show that off, I am going to run this one Lush Isle that I have. It is a level 79, but I'm just going to run this Lush Isle. Lush Isle will always show up kind of at the bottom of the map here. And this one doesn't really have great implicits. It's like monster markers galore. That's fine though. We're just going to run it. And then I'm going to kind of show off the things that I am looking for anytime that I'm in a logbook. So the first thing I do when I get into the logbook, I'm thinking this before I've even loaded in, is I'm going to open up the map and I'm going to look for a skull marker, which I don't see, but that would be the indicator of Olroth. You'll definitely see that in some of the footage elsewhere in the video. And then I'm going to be looking for these like two little outlined sort of like white circles, and I'm just kind of going to run over here. And so these are underground areas. You definitely want to get all of the underground areas available. They will inherit all of the like bonuses and downsides from the remnants that you blast along the way. So like if I hit this remnant here that gives like 40% rarity of items found in excavated chests, and then this one that gives 100% quantity of artifacts, that'll apply to the all the chests that are in the underground area. If I were to pick up some monster bonuses first, like this one over here, 40 rarity of items dropped by monsters, and then hit the underground area, that would apply to all the monsters in there as well. So because of this, you kind of want to daisy chain around the expedition logbook area looking for like good remnants, and I think the best remnants are ones that give rarity of items found in chests and quantity of items found in chests, because what we're going to be doing with that is we're going to be looking for some of these side areas that are above ground, like this one here, that are fenced off. And I'm just going to make a daisy chain of explosives over this way. Kind of show that off. Obviously, I wouldn't set it up like this normally, but I'm just showing off how you do it. So you just make your way over and you blow up one of the fences, and then the totem in here will benefit, as far as I've been able to tell, it'll benefit all of the remnants, or from all of the remnants that you've hit along the way. Now, this is not true for Olroth. It is true for the bosses in PoE 1 expedition logbooks, but it's not true for Olroth in PoE 2. At least not yet. So yeah, that's ultimately what I'm kind of trying to do. The only other thing that I'm really like doing along the way is just I'm kind of looking for quantity and rarity bonuses, preferably more from chests than from monsters, although monsters are okay. And then I'm just trying to look for like the side areas that have a totem in them, and trying to kind of end there. You can kind of see they'll look like they're little pinched off areas here. Like this is definitely an area that has a totem in it. You can see totem behind a fence. And then there's the one up there. And I think those might be the only ones in this zone, because that little branch over here is not one. And I'm pretty sure that this little spot over here isn't quite pinched enough to be closed off by a fence. I was unfortunately correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of bounce around looking for good remnants, and I kind of already started at some right off the bat here. Remnants that give more rarity of items in chests, maybe more rarity of items and quantity of items from monsters. I'll hit that. And then I'll just try and kind of avoid any of the like bad modifiers as well. So because I have two areas that I want to open up that are on opposite sides of the map, I'm going to have to hit one of them earlier on in the chain than I would like. It's just inevitable. It's okay. Yeah, see, quantity of items dropped by monsters, that's pretty good. Quantity of artifacts dropped by monsters, not very good. Not worth taking a bad thing like monster hits can't be evaded. And then I'm just going to make my way over here to this other underground area. And then finally, I'll try and end up with my last one, hopefully, you know, hit as many good remnants as I can along the way. That's not any good. That's just artifacts. Pack size isn't too big of a deal either, but I'll take it because it's not a big deal. Like, no defensive value. Defensive value modifiers don't matter, right? I kill everything in one hit either way, so I don't care if they had a double life. So other than these side areas and underground areas in Olroth, the other things that I'm looking for are the currency chests, like this one way up here. I guess that's the only one in the entire map that I can see. Yeah, this currency flag right here. And then there are these very like poorly marked flags that are skill gem boxes, and they just sort of have like a blank flag. It's behind, of course, it's behind a tree kinda, but it's this blank flag behind a tree, and it is a skill gem. And the chances of it being a level 20 skill gem or level 20 spirit gem are pretty low, but you know, good enough I think to me to justify going after, so I'll head over there and hit that as well. And then I'm just gonna check around to see if there are any other good remnants around here, and the answer is not really. All right, I'm just gonna finish up with this one, and then we'll just hit the plunger and clear this all out, and then we'll see what I get. All right, so one thing that I do like to do whenever I'm kind of making my way through a Logbooks explosion chain is I will kind of try and make a beeline to any of the like hordes on the side that I blow up along the way and loot them real quick, because they do tend to have divines in them more often than anywhere else in the logbook. And you know, I would rather, like, if there's a chance that I might die, and there's always a chance, right? I would rather snap them up before I get killed. And the same kind of goes with underground areas, just so I don't like forget to enter them and then like leave and start the next one without having done one of the underground side areas. Just clear those out as I get to them, and then give the explosion chain some time to catch up to the fact that I move a lot faster than it does. Nothing in that underground area, terrible. And so, like, realistically, if I were being like super economical with my time and really like boiling this down to a science, I wouldn't be wasting time going around and picking up these order artifacts, because if I get like 25 of them in this logbook, that would probably be a pretty good haul, and that's like one exalted orb. For all of that time and effort spent picking them up, that's pretty stupid. Now, for Black Scythe artifacts and Sun artifacts, those are worth going around and picking up. But the Order ones and the Broken Circle ones, I really don't think they are. But the exotic coinage is, like, that is definitely worth picking up, since it's worth a couple of exalts. And, you know, like, I'm not so rich that I wouldn't stop and pick up an exalt if it fell in front of me. I would say the biggest things that I like kind of play scared of whenever I'm like moving through an expedition site, whether it's in a map or in a logbook, are the casters, and then these big spear guys. The big spear guys, I'm always trying to like sidestep around them so that they don't throw a giant spear through me and kill me. And then there are some casters that will do like a multiple explosions in a row circle on the ground that can be pretty deadly, and definitely you want to dodge out of that. And then the shield guys aren't really very dangerous, but they are pretty irritating that they're just fully damage immune for a while until eventually you manage to get like a hit through or whatever, stagger them, something like that. All right, and so we're gonna finish off with the last totem here. Now I'm hopeful that I'll get a divine or something nice out of this, but I doubt it since I'm recording, right? Yeah, all right, I got a chaos. Not a particularly good logbook this time around, but that's okay. All right, so that's logbooks, that's the strat. If you cut out me stopping and talking and explaining everything along the way, it does tend to go a lot faster. I think the best part of this strategy is that farming up logbooks in regular maps has kind of been my favorite Atlas strategy this league. So there's really good synergy between that approach and this one. Instead of farming up those logbooks and then trying to find somebody to sell them to, you just kind of ping pong back and forth between the two. Farm them up, run them. You kind of get a bit of a break from setting up towers and rolling maps every now and again by just like running all the logbooks you've accumulated, and then you just get slapped in the face with a fistful of divine orbs. And then once you're done with all of that, you head back to maps to farm more logbooks and do it all over again. All right, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more like it. And if you want to support us even further, consider becoming a channel member. Thanks for watching, and have fun farming logbooks. Bye.